Hello, and welcome to our digital celebration of the Manitoba Arts Council 2021 Prizes in the Arts. My name is Cheryl Mickey, and I'm a program consultant here at the Manitoba Arts Council, and I will be your host today. Thank you for joining us here on Treaty 1 territory, the original lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, Prix, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and on the homeland of the Métis Nation. The Manitoba Arts Council respects the treaties that were made on these territories, and we recognize privilege disparities, we acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past, and we dedicate ourselves to move forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in the spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. We're committed to an approach that respects and recognizes the distinct worldview and creative cultures of Indigenous communities while aiming to make Indigenous artistic expression a source of pride for all Manitobans. And first, a little bit of history about our prizes awards. So in 2002, we began to award prizes, beginning with the prestigious Manitoba Arts Award of Distinction. And 3 years ago, we introduced 4 new prizes. These are Emerging Excellence, Indigenous Full Circle, Rural Recognition, and Connecting Creative Communities. So last year, Alan Grey Eyes received the 2020 Manitoba Arts Award of Distinction. And today, we're proud to announce the 4 2021 prize recipients. These recipients were nominated by members of the community, and their success was determined by a panel of their peers. So we'd like to thank all of the nominators, the nominees, and the assessment panel for taking part in this process. So before we announce the prize recipients, please welcome a few words from the Province of Manitoba Minister of Sport, Culture and Heritage, the Honourable Kathy Cox, as well as the Chair of the Manitoba Arts Council, Roberta Christensen.
I'm very excited to join you virtually today on behalf of our Premier, Brian Pallister, and all of my colleagues in the Manitoba Legislature. And I'd like to extend a very warm Manitoba welcome to everyone joining us, albeit virtually today. I have such fond memories of previous events, and while this year's celebration is different, I would still like to thank MAC Chair Roberta Christensen, Executive Director Randy Joint, and the entire Manitoba Arts Council for the opportunity to say a few words as we celebrate the recipients of this year's Manitoba Arts Council Awards. The Manitoba Arts Council Prizes program celebrates achievements in the arts, honoring the excellence, resourcefulness, and imagination of individuals, groups, and organizations working in Manitoba. Today, we finally learned the names of the worthy recipients who are being recognized in the following categories: Emerging Excellence, Indigenous Full Circle, Rural Recognition, and Connecting Creative Communities. Each category recognizes an outstanding artist or organization who contributes to the rich creative life that we all enjoy here in Manitoba. And I can tell you that each recipient embodies the creativity and community spirit that makes us so proud to be Manitobans. And I'm very pleased to share that our government recently invested $6 million to support Manitoba's arts and culture sector. These funds will support those most impacted by the pandemic and help sustain the sector until we can safely resume to its activities. I am pleased that the Manitoba Arts Council and Manitoba Film and Music are responsible for administering these funds on behalf of our government. Congratulations again to the prize recipients and to the Manitoba Arts Council for your continued hard work in supporting our creative arts and cultural communities. Thank you.
On behalf of the Board of Directors of the Manitoba Arts Council, I am thrilled to be here to congratulate the winners of the 2021 Manitoba Arts Council prizes. My favorite part of my role as chair of the Manitoba Arts Council is seeing the creativity that there is across this province. And as someone who gets to hear in advance who the winners are, I can tell you the creativity is here in spades. We are here today to celebrate and recognize 4 individuals and organizations for their body of work, for their impact in their communities, and for their ongoing commitment to making Manitoba a better and more creative place in which to live. I would like to thank these recipients for their work and offer my heartfelt congratulations.
The Emerging Excellence Prize recognizes professional, emerging artists for their achievements and potential. This year's recipient is a poet and interdisciplinary artist exploring polysensory production and somatic grief through text and textile. The 2021 Emerging Excellence Prize recipient is Melanie Monaceros.
My name is Melanie, or Mel Monaceros, and I'm an artist and a writer and a poet and filmmaker. Yeah, and I use textiles and lots of different medium to kind of express myself. I've been writing poetry for a very long time, since I was little, and I've been writing nonfiction for a long time. And I've been doing textiles kind of in a shared capital V visual artist way for about 5 years. I'm really inspired by patterns of genealogy, patterns in the sky, patterns in the fabric, and I'm really inspired by some of the limitations that being disabled has brought to my experience. And so yeah, finding ways to accessibilize different things and different mediums and different ways of experiencing and learning more ways of experiencing things is really inspiring to me. Yeah. I feel like my coming into my kind of disabled identity was very much not in a vacuum. It was so connected to other sick and disabled queers and trans folks and BIPOC folks immediately for me. And that really informed how I thought about art and access and community and connection and oppression and my role and intersection with all those things. And so we're just not thought of, like disabled folks, chronically ill folks, blind folks, deaf folks, every creators and folks that are going to experience art in the kind of infrastructure of how public arts or anything like that is offered. Accessibility is so on the bottom rung of the ladder of consideration. The more that that's the case, the less available it is for artists with disabilities to grow. It prevents people from seeing how amazing we are in our creations. And yeah, I think the resistance to it kind of in the arts world is old. Yeah, it needs to just be shifted. And, you know, if you're making art to share with people, make it to share with people, not just able-bodied people.
It is with absolute pleasure that I extend my sincere congratulations to poet and interdisciplinary artist Melanie Monaceros on receiving the Manitoba Arts Council's Emerging Excellence Award. I've had the privilege to witness Mel's brilliant and generous creative work in many settings through Manitoba's arts community over the past 2 years. Mel's polysensory approach to their textiles, films, and performances are at once intriguing, deeply meaningful, emotionally and physically engaging, and above all, inclusive. Their efforts and devotion to connecting with the arts community through performances, talks, and workshops that consider a collective queer and crip consciousness are exceptional. And during this time of social isolation, Mel's effective presence and words have reached us across screens and sound waves. They've brought us together and held us. So thank you, Mel, for making this arts community a much richer place through the gift of your creativity, which you've shared so openly with us. And congratulations on this much deserved recognition of your labor and your practice.
Hello, Joignez-vous, and thank you for this award in recognition of my artistic practice. Thank you to the Award Selection Committee of the Manitoba Arts Council and to my nominator, Jennifer Gibson at Gallery 103 at the University of Winnipeg for her consideration for this award, as well as her steady, enthusiastic support of my work. Thank you to the original and continued keepers of this land, the Anishinaabe, Innu, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota and Dene peoples, and Métis Nation. This land that has provided me with the foundation to grow a career and a community upon. May my makings and movements echo my respect and devotion to the lifelong unlearning and resistance of white supremacy, anti-Indigenous and anti-Black racism, ableism, nationalism, and other current forms of colonial oppression present in a country like so-called Canada. Thank you to my families, my infinite colleagues and dream collaborators, ARV and TLMVJ, for everything you are and do, and for the love of learning how to hold and lift each other up in this world. I am grateful to all of the artists, writers, activists, and creative colleagues, especially other Black, Indigenous, and people of color that I have been able to meet, connect, co-conspire with, or just daydream about what is possible here in Manitoba. An extra shout out to everyone who has come to a reading, workshop, performance, class, or artist talk with me over the past couple of years and offered their time and attention and sometimes a story. I hold those moments of connection and creative intimacy close to my heart as I continue my work. To be recognized, especially as a Black disabled artist, is particularly meaningful as it isn't always easy to connect with the larger artistic community because of limits to engaging socially or professionally due to access, disability, and systemic oppression. With this award, I look forward to deepening my commitment to care and rest as essential practices for survival and sustainability, as well as continued intersectional, interdependent relationship building and access to the arts through slow, crip-centered creation and experience. Thank you.
Congratulations, Melanie. Next up, the Indigenous Full Circle Prize, which recognizes Indigenous artists and knowledge keepers for their achievements. This year's recipient is a fashion designer and knowledge keeper whose work combines haute couture design with traditional materials such as leather, hide, beadwork, and furs. The 2021 Indigenous Full Circle Prize recipient is Lana Sinclair.
Hi, my name is Lana Sinclair. I am from Fisher River Cree Nation, and I am a fashion designer, a tanner, hunter, fisher, gatherer, and a mentor to many youth. My traditional designing and sewing, which was taught by my grandmothers. Yeah, they taught me how to sew, bead, make my own clothes, my mitts, my moccasins, mucklucks, even my shirts, my jackets, vests, and my pants. I've always loved fashion. My inspirations were other fashion designers, native, non-native. So I kind of combine like the history with my today's fashions and culture. So yeah, my grandmothers are my main inspirations though. I was one of those kids that hung out with old ladies. I didn't have much friends. But like being an artist and a sewer and designer kind of earned me a lot of respect and friendship throughout the years, old and young, and giving back the knowledge of our culture, is a big part of who we are and our land. Respect Mother Earth, the water, sky. That's my focus, is like to keep the knowledge alive through arts and a traditional culture. within, you know, our way of life, which was lost.
In the words of Eddie Ayu, nominator for Lana Sinclair, Lana Sinclair has shared her knowledge and multifaceted arts practice as a guest since Art City's earliest days. Now, after 2 decades, Lana has engaged more participants than any other guest artist, leading us in dozens of workshops, including leatherwork, beading, tufting, regalia, and jewelry design. Growing up on the northern traplines of her ancestors, Lana carries with her traditional practices and knowledge learned from her grandparents, who learned from their grandparents. When Lana leads a workshop, participants are learning how to do things the way they've been done for thousands of years by the indigenous people of this land. Some skills, such as traditional hide tanning, have dwindled in practice to the point where a knowledge keeper like Lana, who's willing to teach, is the key to keeping cultural practice alive and on this side of a page from a textbook. With Lana, participants learn to use natural materials. We walk outside, away from the sidewalks and pavement to gather what we need. No money, shopping, or stores are required. Lana sources fresh hides from indigenous hunters. There's blood, bone, and fur. Jewelry incorporates porcupine quills. When we do use human-made materials, Lana explains exactly what natural material that manufactured material is replacing. This award gives Art City a way to honor Lana Sinclair's generosity, her knowledge, and her long-time friendship. Hundreds of children and participants of all ages have met and learned from Lana through our programs. We're proud to nominate her for the Indigenous Full Circle Award.
I'm greatly honored in accepting this award, and I would like to thank Art City, the youth, Tracy Longbottom, who I've known for like 23 years. I finally it's such a great honor to accept this award, and everyone keep on in their culture and being knowledgeable and passing it down. Keep on passing down the knowledge.
Congratulations, Lana. Next up, the Rural Recognition Prize. This recognizes rural artists, arts groups, and organizations for their achievements. This year's recipient is a boreal writer and teacher whose work has gained recognition from CBC Literary Awards and won national contests. The 2021 Rural Recognition Prize recipient is Donna Basil.
My name is Donna Basil, and I grew up in the boreal forest. And I very strongly believe that everyone has a story to tell, and they have the right to tell it. I consider myself primarily a writer, but I also like doing art, and I like doing music, and I do some photography for magazines when I write articles. I've always lived in the boreal forest, except for the times when I was going to university. I love the beauty of the boreal forest, and I also like the stories that come from the boreal forest. Like a lot of all of my stories are set in the boreal forest, so there's a certain amount of danger and there's a certain amount of trauma, and it's quiet. We don't have a lot of interruptions. We don't have a lot of distractions, and we can really focus on our art. I always liked writing, I always liked reading. I have an English honors degree, so I really did a lot of reading in university. I didn't start writing until I was in my 40s though. After a series of traumatic events, I thought, well, I have some stories to tell. So yes. And my husband died when he was 45. So I'm like, okay, this is it. This is a time to think about it, doing this seriously. So talking about art and talking about taboo subjects, and I very strongly believe in doing that, writing about it and talking about it. I've done like presentations at a suicide forum. I've spoken at other, using writing to deal with trauma. presentations like that. The thing about all of those taboos, all of those traumatic things is people try to avoid it, and what happens is it becomes more stigmatized, more taboo. It's harder to talk about. So my goal in life is to make it less unspeakable and more accessible.
Donna Basil has served the artistic communities of the Eastman region and beyond, working with determination to develop her career as a writer and to connect and help other writers. She's a tireless promoter of other artists in rural Manitoba, and this award goes a small way toward thanking her. Donna does many things, but I know her best as a writer. Her stories are realistic, sometimes demanding. She has used her writing skills to get people to talk about the traumas of suicide and sexual abuse. Her work is ferociously honest and darkly comic. It is always oriented toward justice. I heard about her before I knew her, the way you hear about a myth or that amazing pike that no one ever gets. When I met her, I was bowled over by her vitality and humor. She's interested in everyone, curious about everything. Being around her makes you want to get things done, but all I know for certain is that the one who will get things done is her. Thank you, Donna. You are very deserving of the Rural Recognition Prize.
First off, I'd like to thank Manitoba Arts Council. They have supported me in so many ways: grants, artist residencies, and lots of advice. Here's how I learned about MAC. Early in this century, they hosted a reception in Pinawa. The board and staff had traveled outside of the city to follow up on an important initiative. In short, they wanted to meet more of the people who ran arts events in rural Manitoba. The reception was held in a large hall at Wilderness Edge Resort, and dozens of people showed up. I attended because I was on the board of the Eastern Manitoba Concert Association. I met Joan Thomas, who was in charge of the literary section of the Arts Council, and Susan Israel, who was in charge of the Artisan Schools program. It turned out that MAC's initiative worked. Both women played huge roles in my future artistic development. Joan asked me what I did, and I said, well, I've been working on this manuscript. She told me I must be a writer and encouraged me to visit her at the MAC offices so we could talk more about the supports that they offer. She even read the manuscript, or at least some of it, if I remember correctly, and urged me to keep going and start applying for grants. Encouraged by Joan's recognition that I might be a real writer, I started sending work out. In 2002, my story won first prize in Prairie Fire's annual Creative Nonfiction Contest. This is another organization I'd like to thank. Over the years, they've published many of my stories. And in 2020, another nonfiction piece won first prize in their Creative Nonfiction Contest. They also helped me to self-identify as a boreal writer by inviting me to participate in both of their boreality project issues. I am also grateful to all the other publishers who have chosen to feature my writing. That night of the MAC reception, I also worked up the courage to play my guitar with Susan Israel. She had brought her violin and invited people to join in a jam session. Later on, she encouraged me to apply for MAC's province-wide Artist in Schools program, and this also played a role in my artistic development. As a result, I got to work in many amazing schools. I had previously taught language arts, but these artist residencies were much more fun. These residencies also helped me to reinforce the basics of good writing. Every time I worked with kids, it reminded me to consistently use those skills. And I loved watching them discover the joys and excitement of writing. They inspired me. I'd like to thank my children, Allison and Brad, for putting up with a mother who often wrote into the wee hours. After their father's death, it was a challenging time for all of us. I know I used writing to get through it, and lots of therapy, of course, and horses. As a writer, I'm grateful for my unique childhood growing up in a provincial park. The boreal forest, my large family, and the small communities where I've lived provide endless material for literary explorations. As I often say, you can strip mine your past for all kinds of fascinating stories. I'm also beholden to the various writing groups and organizations that I've belonged to and worked with over the years. To name a few: Manitoba Writers Guild, Creative Nonfiction Collective, the Writers Union of Canada, Creative Manitoba, Manitoba Arts Network, Sage Hill Writing. I'd also like to thank the Winnipeg River Arts Council. I was part of the original group who got together and did the groundwork to establish this organization, and I'm proud to say we're now celebrating our 10th anniversary. Several board members from this group are still serving on the board. It amazes me that we knit together such a large coalition of artists and arts organizations from a widespread region, 5 municipalities, and it somehow works. At present, I've written more than 100 artist profiles for artists and arts organizations of all kinds in Eastman. Our motto is connecting people through the arts, and we work hard to achieve this. I give huge props to all the folks who have served on the board and all the volunteers who have helped out at numerous events. Especially big love goes out to our present administrator, Jennifer Hudson-Stewart, who goes way further than above and beyond for our Arts Council. She provides tons of support to the members in so many ways, and also listens patiently while when I rant about various artistic concerns. I'd like to thank Ron Newfield and Sally Ito for writing great reference letters. Last but not least, I'd like to thank Sue Sorensen. Her knack for writing an enthusiastic nomination depicted me as an exceptionally smart and dedicated person. It was a great gift that she extended, and I will be forever grateful.
Congratulations, Donna. And lastly, the Connecting Creative Communities Prize, which recognizes arts groups and organizations for exceptional collaboration within the Manitoba arts community. This year's recipient is a community-based charitable organization committed to redistributing reusable art materials available on a take what you need and pay what you can basis. The 2021 Connecting Creative Communities Prize recipient is Arts Junction.
Arts Junction is a community-based organization. We're a not-for-profit that focuses on creative reuse. So we have 3 kind of core tenets, which are art, environment, and community. We bring in all recycled materials that we redistribute to the community at take what you need, pay what you can rates. So we really focus on creating programming that reinforces environmental sustainability while also supporting people's creative pursuits and helping them to reimagine materials. And yeah, we're just kind of a hub where we allow people to come in and make things. We run workshops, we do all kinds of things, whatever we can to support community.
Arts Junction started in 2007. Melanie Jansen, Di Harms, and Andrew Bell Stewart really saw a need to share resources, really focus on reducing the waste and reclaiming that and repurposing that in our community, as well as especially schools. So it started in 2007, and from there it's really skyrocketed.
And knowing that within this neighborhood that we live in, the community, it's not just, there's not just art supplies that need to be handed out. There's a lot more. There's community drives that we've been doing to ensure that, even knowing that within inner city Winnipeg there's abject poverty, there's people who are using substances, and we're trying to make sure that we can kind of connect those people with different resources as well.
Really magical thing here at the depot is seeing the community and people just coming to paint their canvases, they're coming to make their creations and then going out and selling their art in this neighborhood. And I think that's a sense of mutual aid that we offer and support ourselves, and creating a space where people could come as they are and just be able to be like, hey, grab a snack, but also paint a beautiful picture and then go about your day. And I think that's knowing that, especially in the heart of the exchange, that yes, it is being heavily gentrified, but allowing folks to just come as they are. I think Arts Junction is just a little hole in the wall. Like, we're really, we have some really good folks here, and again, just a really good sense of community. And every day we're trying to figure out how to adapt and to truly be authentic to ourselves and our community in a harm reduction way, and just more of a what makes sense and what do people need now and what do we need now. So I think that's just an important aspect of Arts Junction and how we're getting by. Yeah.
And in the words of Andrew Eastman, the nominator of Arts Junction provides a safe and inclusive space for all community members and supports their neighborhood, city, and province through vibrant, reciprocal partnerships. This can mean providing free materials for specific drives, like their school supply drive this past fall, where they distributed over 50 kilograms of pencils, binders, paper, markers, and more to be distributed through 12 different organizations across the city, and to individuals who come to their depot. Another drive that's incredibly impactful is their Warmth Drive, where they have gathered over 70 kilograms of yarn, wool, knitting and crochet implements, and fleece, felt, and wool blankets from the community to distribute to over 60 volunteers who are knitting and crocheting and creating with these materials warm winter gear for newcomers, youth, and anyone in need of winter wear. These pieces are being donated directly to Central Neighborhoods Association to share with folks who are coming in off the street, from houseless neighbors to folks coming in from ERCOM to anyone at all who walks in looking to warm up, no questions asked.
On behalf of Arts Junction, we are so pleased to accept the Manitoba Arts Council Connecting Creative Communities Award. We also want to extend a very large thank you to our funders, our wonderful volunteers, and our board members. Thank you so much, and we love you, community.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Congratulations to the team at Arts Junction, and once again, congratulations to all of our prize recipients. On behalf of the Manitoba Arts Council, thank you so much for being with us today and for celebrating these wonderful achievements. See ya.